Here we are. Welcome, everybody. It's the sixth iteration of Behind the Brand. It's a series we've been doing now for about a year, which is crazy to think about. Today, I am joined with Aaron and Sarah Maldonado of Brigade. How you guys doing?
Good. We're good. We're chilling in the studio.
Nice. What part of New York are you guys in?
We live in Williamsburg in Brooklyn, but our studio's in Bushwick.
Nice.
So,
very
off the
cool.
Alton.
I love it. Well, we'll kick things off. Starting it off, we're sitting in a fashion chat on a platform made for gamers. Aaron and I actually bonded over a fit check because we both were wearing the Tim's three-eyed lugs before anybody was making memes about them.
I'm rocking them right now, just for you. We're doing the.
What was that? What was that, Aaron, coming in?
Good over good.
I literally was wearing like my house slippers, and I was like, babe, I got to put these shoes on real quick because this is what Aaron and I bonded over. Anyway, we got to kick it off with a fit check. Run us through what you guys got on today.
All right. I'm going to slide the camera over so we can do the full actual fit check. That's our bathroom. All right, I'm rocking the summer 24 velodrome shirt with the. Let me slide this over actually. Let's see, I'll get the table with the crazy paneling. You feel me? With the crazy fit. You feel me? This is a large.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the wide cargo shorts. These are just like classic. We added to the repertoire this summer, and then obviously had to do it to them.
Yeah, had to do it to him.
And I got on the cycling jersey from this past season with the chain that we made, Queen of Peace. I got a Brigade belt, got some Everlane trousers on, and of course the Margielas, my go-to everyday shoe.
Flex.
Keeping it light.
No Sambas in here, guys.
No, not at all.
That's awesome. I love it. Well, obviously there are a lot of people in here from your guys' community. Welcome to everybody from the Brigade Discord. It's so sick to have you here. Discord I've been a part of for probably close to, 8-9 months now, a year almost. I've been around for a while.
We started the Discord before COVID, actually. So like John Diablo, who's I think in the chat right now, he was like, "Yeah, we should do a Discord to read," and I was like, "What the hell is that?" And we built it all out. It took us like a month. We did meetings and everything for it. And then at that time, pre-COVID, it was like really a gamer like platform.
Yeah.
So we were just like, I don't know if anybody's gonna be down to download this. And then COVID happened, and then everyone kind of got on Discord. So then about a year ago, or no, I don't even know, like 2 years ago, we were like, hey, do we still have that Discord server? So we just like activated it. And then I invited you, and shortly after we like brought it to life.
That's crazy. So, I mean, low key then, you guys might be some of the like OGs of like brand Discords then, if we go just purely on creation date. That's fire. That's cool to think about. You're ahead of the curve there. Never wrong, you're just early, right? I like it. Well, so all of that being said, for those that, this might be their first time meeting you or hearing about Brigade, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you guys are, what you guys do for the brand?
So you want to go first?
No.
All right. So I'm Aaron. I started the brand when I was 19. Just making silly little t-shirts in my silly little childhood bedroom. And from there, basically launched it like via Instagram, because I kind of had a following on Instagram for collecting Supreme when I was like 16 to 19. Used that to kind of launch the brand through like the strangers I'd met on the internet. And from there, it kind of just grew to a point where in 2021, I was able to quit my job and do it full time. I design everything, creative direct everything, produce everything, and run the social media. And then Sarah came in 2023.
Yep. So we were together the whole time when he was starting it. So I would work my corporate job and then help him out on the weekends. Or like wherever he needed help. So then I was working at Bloomingdale's and Saks as a buyer for 8 years. And then in 2023, this past May, or 2 Mays ago now, I quit my job to join the brand full time. And I manage the other, like the business side of it. So I do all the financial reporting, the taxes. I work with all of our wholesale accounts, and I grow the business on the numbers side.
Yeah, we
And
like to
draws
say,
the little pictures, and you keep the brand running.
yes,
Exactly.
yeah, exactly. We like to say that I'm the heart of the brand, she's the brains. So
Yeah.
like everything outward facing that you see is like my creative lens and expression, and then everything that actually makes the brand make money is all her.
What would you say? How does that translate into like your guys' marriage side of things? Because you guys are a husband and wife, and you're co-founders, co-workers. Do those same sort of roles kind of play off in your marriage, or is it like opposite in your marriage?
I think so.
I think so.
Yeah.
I feel like he's definitely more like type B, goes with
Yeah.
the flow, like a little bit more relaxed. And then I have lists for work and I have lists for my personal life. So
Our
very
calendar is crazy. I just started using the calendar app like 4 months ago. Because
You've had
like
a
she started
brand since you were 19, and you just started using the calendar.
This is
You
all I
really
say.
are a creative director, bro. Holy.
I can't beat the creative director allegations. It's crazy.
Oh, that's so funny. That's really cool. Awesome. So, this is something that kind of a part A, part B that we ask all of our guests. I think it's really cool to see how, to flip the lens back on people, and I'm curious, how would you describe your personal style, and when was the first moment you realized you were into clothing?
You want to go first?
Sure.
I feel like mine's a little more long-winded.
Yeah, I feel like the first time I ever realized I was into clothing was definitely when I was really little. And whenever my mom would put on like a movie or a TV show, I would just draw all of their outfits like as I was watching it. So growing up, they put me in like different sewing classes, sewing schools during the summer. I would go to like fashion camps, sewing camps, and I would do all of that. So I really thought like, oh, I'm going to get into design. I'm going to go to college for design. And then the year before I was applying to college, I went to a pre-college program for the business of fashion. And I was like, nope, that's it. I'm dropping all of the skills I've had with sewing and like designing and everything. And I definitely want to do the business end because I also loved math. So then I went to school for the business of fashion. And then I would say my style is definitely like evolving. I feel like right out of college, when I started working at Bloomingdale's, they used to have like a really strict dress code called B style. You had to wear like black pants, white tops, or like a light blue top, and that was it. So like my whole closet was just corporate, and I never really got to have fun with fashion in like some very formative years. So now that I'm out of the corporate scene, I'm definitely like having more fun with my style on a day-to-day basis. Right now, I'm playing sporty while actually not doing sports. So I'll wear the cycling jersey, I'll wear the football jersey. I'll definitely be like a little bit more sporty on the street, but there's no sports behind it. So
Yeah, and then I guess thankfully I came from a family where my parents are fly. They always had me in polo and stuff growing up, and they're both born and raised New Yorkers from Brooklyn. They're very proud of that fact, and they kind of always put style at like the forefront of. We were just like fly little kids, my brother and I. We were growing up because of them, not because of us. And I grew up skateboarding, grew up listening to like metal, hip hop. And I think just my style was always informed by like my environment, blending the two different worlds together. Then as I've gotten older, for a while I was kind of in like again creative director allegations, wearing like a black hoodie and for like 4 years straight. And then my friend Elijah was kind of like, "Yeah, you should like think about what you like to see, and to buy as a consumer." Because like I was like, "Oh, I make clothes. I don't need to like buy them." And he's like, "Yeah, well, you should think about that." And it really stuck with me. And then from there, that was like maybe 3 years ago, I started to just like dress again.
Yeah.
And I think that has really helped the brand, honestly, at the end of the day. Because I can tell I'm like researching what I want myself. Because I've always designed for what my friends wear and like what we all want. But I guess it becomes much deeper when you start looking at like what do you truly want to buy into?
Yeah.
So I
Totally.
think that's my style has evolved from my parents blessing me with good taste as a kid
He was
to
born into swag.
yeah, the swag life chose me. I don't know what to say.
Hell yeah. There's two things I wanted to point out there. Aaron, you have reignited our streak. We continuously we're running a checklist and building like fantasy football teams out of all of our guests where their fashion origins start with hardcore and or skateboarding or both. And so you are in the majority. So congratulations.
I mean, skateboarding is the flyest.
You're on the cool team, bro.
It is what it is. You can't really beat that. I mean, in America, at least, that's like where I feel like a lot of our style comes from, like the cool style, I guess.
Yeah. Sarah, and what you said about playing Sporty reminded me of my dream to buy Sporty and Rich Sambas, just because I'm just the polar opposite of what they stand for. And I think I like the bit. Everybody tells me I'm an idiot when I tell them that bit, but we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah.
It'll happen. Cool. All right. Let's talk Brigade for a second here. Talk about how the origins. How did it start? You said you started it when you were 19. Where did the idea originate from? And how, not just where did the idea come from, but how did you then like make that first collection?
Yeah, so this is a very long-winded answer that I'm going to try to paraphrase.
We got an hour, dog.
Oh,
go off, King.
I mean, since I was in middle school, I basically got into sneakers as a young kid because of my dad, my older brother. It's like one of those things where your older brother growing up, I don't know if you have any siblings, is usually your older sibling, you're like, wow, they're so cool, even though you don't want to admit it. He was super into sneakers and like all of that stuff. So I got into it, started being on the forums growing up, like Soul Collector, Nike Talk. I got into Supreme Talk, Strictly Supreme later. And basically, in 8th grade, I wanted to start a brand called Paper Planes. Shout out to my boy. My boy Alex Oliver will recall that and put that in print. But I was like, yo, when I'm an adult, I'm gonna start a brand called Paper Planes. The logo's gonna be like a plane flying. It was very much like and then from there I just like started designing every day from that was 8th grade. I got my first laptop. I traded like 6 pairs of shoes on Soul Collector for a Toshiba laptop. Cracked Photoshop, started designing. And then my dad had a clothing store like in Poughkeepsie, New York, and I made a T-shirt for a pair of Jordans that were coming out, the like New Love Old Love ones. And that was back in the day where like when a new pair of Jordans or like kicks was dropping, you bought the T-shirt to match,
Yeah.
So I made this like sick T-shirt with Mars Blackman and Jordan dunking over him, and it's like it's got to be the shoe. It was basically a Jordan bootleg, which looking back on it, that's definitely not legal. And he's wearing the shoes on each shirt. So we made a red shirt and a green shirt. And he was like, "Yo, I'll give you $5 for like every one we sell." And we sold out in the first day, and I made $500. And then from there, I paid someone to get me a MacBook. And because I was like, oh, if I get a MacBook, like it's up. I was in time. Because at that time, Apple like computers just seemed like it unlocked creativity. So got the MacBook, started designing for real, just like t-shirt graphics and stuff. Entered a few Karmaloop contests back then.
Yeah. Just throwing it back, dude.
Yeah. And then in 2014, I tried to go to college. I couldn't afford it. I got accepted to Albany. I was going to go for computer science because I thought I was going to end up working at Apple. I don't know why. I was like, Steve Jobs saved my life. Like, couldn't go. I couldn't afford it. So I was delivering pizza and I got into a car accident and it was like a Jeep Liberty like T-boned me at 50 miles an hour in the driver door. I was unconscious and everything. And I came out with like not a scratch really, just a concussion. Like it could have been way worse. Like I was under the driver door, like it was on top of me. And everyone in the hospital was like, "Oh, like you're here for a reason and this and that," like respectfully. And I was like, you know what? I've been trying to go to school. I've been trying to like do what I'm supposed to do, and like life is not really working out for me. I'm gonna like chase my childhood dream, and that's when I started Brigade. And it took about 6 months to come up with a name and like a through point for it. The idea was kind of creating something for kids that felt like me at the time, where like I never really felt like I fit in anywhere all the way. It always felt like I was halfway fitting into everything. So I just wanted to create like a space and like a brand for people that are like interested in all of these things and can feel comfortable in their own skin and identifying with it. And then that's why it's called Brigade. It's like Brigade is like a unit of people. It's like a militia, you know. This was way before community was like the buzzword for American business.
Yeah. You kind of founded your brand and your principles on the thing that every corporate entity in the world right now is pining for.
Yeah, to be honest, I got really upset about that. Because I was like, mine was like
real.
Place, you know, like it was a pure place, and I thought it was like really, I don't know, like it's this unique thing, and now it's like Spotify has like community, you know, it's like everybody has community. So
you were a soul skater, and then the bad guys came in, dude. Anybody remember Brink? Anybody get that reference? Just me? Okay, cool. Anyway. That's wow. Okay. Well, as a kid who was interested in everything and couldn't devote enough time to all the little projects you wanted to do, I love that, man. I think that's very cool.
Yeah, then I mean, I guess to finish the story, I totally forgot, but I saved up $500 in tips delivering pizza. I made 2 t-shirts and a Augustus Sportswear coach jacket. I sold them for like $10 more than I paid for them because I didn't know how profit margins worked. And coincidentally, though, I made $1,000 in the first 45 minutes. And I remember my mom, she worked overnights back then, and it was 12 p.m. So we've always dropped Fridays at 12 p.m. And I ran up to her room and I like woke her up and I was like, "We're up, like we're rich," like because there's like a comment
about Mom.
I was like, "Yeah, I made $1,000 in 45 minutes," and she was like, "What are you talking about, bro?"
That's wild.
Yeah, so I've been chasing that high ever since, I guess.
Yeah, right. I bet. So Sarah, where are you in all of this? And what were you doing during this? And how did you play into all of that?
Yeah, so I remember very vividly, I was at an internship in the city. It was during the summer when Aaron called me. He's like, "I'm going to start this brand called Brigade. Like, this is the whole thing." And we were on the phone for like 3 hours talking about it. And so then I think it was when I was in college is when it first started. So I was finishing up my senior year. I was applying to all the different places I wanted to work, finishing out internships. And so then I moved to the city, and Aaron was still in Poughkeepsie at the time. But anything he needed, like if we needed to like ship or we needed to, he needed help with like a pop-up, I was always there, but it would be like after work hours on weekends. And then as the brand grew, we ended up moving in together. And then we would have everything shipped to our apartment. So it was like our living room. It was
miserable.
And our kitchen was just like, we have pictures of it. It's just like stacks of boxes to the ceiling. It looks like, yeah, it looks like we moved in and we like never unpacked. And so then on weekends and during the nights, we would like ship out any orders. And then it got to the point where it got so big, it was like bigger than our apartment, that we started storing stuff at my parents' place in Connecticut. And then we would take the train out and we would start shipping from there. But it was like we would take the train out right after I got out of work on a Friday, ship until like Sunday night, and then like take the train back. And then Monday I would go back to work. So it was like I was there in the shadows.
It was miserable.
You just along for the ride at that point. I mean, you guys were on the grind, which is that's just like that is what just blows my mind, is that you guys were just this young couple just grinding. I mean, you're going to school, you're working a full-time job, and then you're just like getting shit done on the weekends. I mean, it's truly, I mean, because you guys we're about the same age. Aaron, you're what, 29, 30, 28? 29. Okay, and I turned 29 in like a month. So I mean, to think about, I mean, I was having a kid working in, real estate at that time. Most of the people our age,
crazy.
most people our age were doing beer kegs and going to psych class. I mean, just to think about the grind and hustle you guys were on. Not to go, crazy David Goggins here, but just the fact that you guys have stayed through it and are now married. I mean, that alone right there, just the craziness of being a startup and figuring it all out. Hey, something I'm curious on is, you talked about like the origins being in like t-shirt printing. When did the transition happen from, doing like screen printing to where you started manufacturing like garments and pieces?
So in 2015, started the brand September 2014. So it's going to be our 10-year anniversary next month, which is crazy.
Crazy.
In 2015, 9 months in, I've never been into like designing graphic tees, like respectfully. Even in the beginning, I was like, I want to make like flannels and like, I don't know, like that's what I thought was the thing, back then. I don't know why I remember that vividly as flannels being my pinnacle, like cut and sew piece. But and so I started to like think about how to produce things that other brands our size weren't making. And the first thing we ever did was a baseball jersey. Like I wanted it to be wool, but I didn't understand how to produce anything. So it came out as like this weird poly cotton. I don't even know what it is, honestly, to this day. And yeah, that was 9 months in. I did the baseball jersey, and then from there, it just seemed like I would start to do one cut and sew piece like per collection, then I'd fill the rest out with printables like hoodies, t-shirts, hats. Even though I was never truly great at like making a graphic tee, like I don't think I'm a strong graphic designer to say the least. But I just like did it because I had to. And all of our money always came from the cut and sew piece. Like we would sell the other stuff, but the cut and sew piece would always like sell out. Or like, and also the profit margins are higher on the cut and sew stuff.
Sure.
So I still continue to do that though. I would look at it as like the cut and sew piece would be like the showstopper, like forefront of the collection. And we're doing capsules, like we're not even doing full collections. So that'd be like the showstopper. That'd be like the marketing item that would get new people in, and then they could buy into the brand with the other stuff as well. And I did that all the way until 2021, I think it was, where our big homie Bradley Carbone, I was talking to him in his car, and he was asking me about like Brigade's financials and like this and that. And again, I have no connection to this industry. Well, I do now, obviously, but I had no connection to the industry and no knowledge of it. I didn't go to school for it. I didn't work any jobs related to it. I shined shoes, like when we were having all the boxes in our apartment.
Yeah.
So I was just talking to him, and then arrogantly I was like, yeah, like all the money comes from the cut and sew. And he was like, what? I was like, yeah, like every other brand, like that's why every brand does it, right? And he was like, that is not normal. I was like, wait, what? And he was like, most brands in streetwear make their money off the principles, and they usually fail when they try to enter the cut and sew realm. And I was like, oh, like all of our profit comes from cut and sew. And he was like, have you ever looked into that? And I was like, no, I just thought that was the norm. And then he was the one that was like, you should maybe start like developing cut and sew collections and see what happens. So from there, it went from like 1 or 2 pieces to like 3 to 4. And then now like our fall collection next month is essentially 85% developed garments. And there's like 3 t-shirts and a hat.
Crazy.
And I think that piece of advice from Bradley was like, that like changed a lot for us in the last 2 years.
Yeah, totally. I mean, in essence, you were flying blind thinking the model you were doing was like the standard, but you were just you were doing things people were dreaming of at the time. Just kind of, talk about failing upwards right there.
Yeah, a little bit. Definitely upwards.
It's crazy. Wow. Okay. So, I'm going to backtrack a little here. When we first, we were talking about doing this right around, I think it was last winter, January. You were just headed off to Japan at the time. But, it was right around that time we started chatting offline and getting, becoming buddies. And, right around the time we first started chatting, it was similar timelines. Sarah had recently gone full time with the brand. And I'm curious, Sarah, tell me more about what that jump was like for you. Making that hard cut, full transition, what were you feeling in that? And I'm curious if you can talk about, some of the criteria that you had in your head. Was there like a criteria list of these things need to happen for me to jump the ship? Or was it just kind of a spur of the moment? This is the right time.
Do you know Sarah?
Yeah.
I can make assumptions based off of I love math, but
True. So basically it was one of those things where, like I said, I was like working on the brand on weekends, during nights. Sometimes I would even take like a day off, like a PTO day, and help with a pop-up or whatever needed to happen. So I was always like integrated in the brand. And then when it got to a point where it was really thriving and we were like, okay, this has major legs. It's gotten to a point where it needs full-time attention. That's when Aaron quit his job, started working for it full-time. So then the next step that we always talked about would be when I would quit my job, what that would look like, what we would be doing at the time. So I think in our head, it had to either hit a number where we could like both pay ourselves and like live off of it, or get beyond that path where it was about to hit that number. So what happened was in 2022, November 2022, Aaron secured our first wholesale account, and that was Concepts. And so we had like a big launch party at Concepts at their New York location, right below Union Square. And it was an amazing day. Like everything sold out. The attendance was off the charts. The Concepts team was telling us like what an amazing day it was, how like they never really like rival their Boston location, which is their flagship, in like such a big capacity. And even the Boston location was calling New York, asking like, hey, what event are you doing today? Like, what are these numbers? And so when we saw that, we were like, okay, this definitely needs more than the attention that one person can give it, because Aaron was trying to do the financials and all of the creative at the same time. And so I was like, this really shows that it's getting to a place where if we can open up more wholesale accounts, then I can bring my expertise as a buyer and just like flip to the other side of the business, continue growing wholesale while also dealing with all the financials. So after that November date is when we really started to talk about it a little bit more heavily. And then it got to the point where we were like, well, how can we expect it to grow further and pay ourselves from it if it doesn't have that attention yet? So it was kind of a catch-22. Like we wanted to be able to be comfortable, but we couldn't get to that point unless there was another person. So it was kind of a big leap for me because I never do anything that doesn't feel like very safe and like rooted in logic.
Yeah,
Uh,
real.
yeah, so I mean, I loved my team at Saks. I had an amazing mentor. I was really happy with that team. So in February, I actually put in my notice and gave them 2 months. So in February 2023 said like, hey, they always knew Brigade was around. I never wanted it to be like they found out and somehow like I was going against my contract. So I was like, hey, I'm actually gonna leave and work on Brigade full time, but I'll stay until the beginning of May. So then during that time where I was like closing out my business at Saks, I was also trying to like pick Aaron's brain a little bit more about like, okay, what do our roles look like? What would I do on a day to day? Where do we stand with everything? And then when I jumped into the business in May, it was like crazy because you could imagine how like a business would look if only one person was running it. It was just like I started pulling a thread of a sweater basically, and it just started like unraveling. Like I was like, oh, this needs attention and this needs attention. So I where previously before leaving Saks, I was worried like, will I have enough work? Now I'm like, okay, we can use like a team.
Yeah, seriously. I'm curious, in that transition, another thing that changed in that moment, I would assume changed is, you guys went from having, your married life and then, a separate professional life. Obviously you're married, everything is together, blah, blah, blah. I'm married too, but how it all works. But, you got that time and that space to go and be yourselves at a job, then you cut that out. You guys are just kind of with each other all the time, and you got to talk about work, and you got to go home and be husband and wife. How was that transition, and what did you guys do to prepare for that, if anything?
Prepare?
Yeah.
I don't know if we prepared.
For that. I feel like the saving grace of it all is I feel like if I was coming in as a designer and he was already the creative director, there would probably be like a lot more sticky points and like confrontation. But because we're so divided in what we do, like right down the middle, like I'm business, he is like the creative. I always say that I will give all last word to Aaron for anything creative, and then I should have final say for anything in the business, spending money, etc. So there's things where when I first joined, I was like, oh, are you sure you want to do that? Whatever. And so he would change the design slightly. And then like 3 months later, he's like, see, this is exactly why we should have gone forward with like what I was proposing to do. And I feel like very quickly I learned like, yeah, Aaron should definitely go with his gut, have the final say there. And so I feel like it's not so much like clashing at the end of the day with like our duties, but the brand has become like basically what we talk about
like
the
our
whole
life.
time. Yeah, it is.
Like, to be transparent, it's like right now we're working on figuring out how to like separate the two. Like we essentially like we'll go on a date, you know, we'll put together the effort to go on a date.
Yeah.
And then 15 minutes in, we're like, okay, so yeah, I was thinking about this thing for Brigade, and like, you know, it's like it's hard to stop talking and thinking about it all the time.
Yeah. Well,
it is our life.
And it's probably similar to like what my wife and I go through. It's like our life is our kids, and your life is the brand. And so it's like you go and you find the time to go. You get a babysitter. You go out and you have a date. You try to have a nice little spaghetti dinner, and all you're doing is talking about what the kids did or what was going on at the brand. It's like it's just like it's the really common problem of a married couple with something. That something is just your baby brand, you know, as opposed to, you know, a child.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
So we're working through that currently.
But even this summer, we were like, okay, we are going to set aside designated days where we do like one fun thing. And so it was like one day a month we would do like a fun thing. I feel like,
but those had to be planned like 6 weeks in advance.
It had to be planned 6 weeks in advance. Ended up that like we didn't even really take them. Like once we went to a baseball game, we're like, we'll take a half day, we'll go to the baseball game, and then we'll just chill. We won't go back to work. That was completely false. We went exactly back to work right at like 4:00 and
we were like working on the subway home.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
But it's cool that it's naturally what you both are going towards. You know, this is something you're both passionate about, and it's something that you both are wanting to see succeed at the highest level. You know, it'd be one thing if, you know, you guys both weren't saying, hey, let's go back to the office. If there was the divide, you know, that'd be a fun problem to walk through. I would never do that, but you know, at least it's something you guys are both like kicking each other over, you know?
No, exactly.
Totally.
That being said, you know, just because there may not be as many creative differences, I am really curious. I'm going to poke the bear a little, you know, so even if it's not a creative difference, but you know, when there are departmental clashes, how do you guys separate that? You know, when a work scuffle happens, what do you do when you go home?
How would you describe it? I feel like I could think of examples of like product-based things.
Yeah.
Where, yeah, I don't know. How would you describe that?
Yeah, I feel like I try and get us to a point where like we both, maybe if we both don't like 100% agree, if we're both at a place where like I'm 60% in on something and he's 40% in, as long as it's like close enough, I try to get to that middle point. So then if the end result is not what we expected or what we wanted, it's like, okay, to some degree, we both agreed to do this. So now we have to deal with the repercussions of this. And it's like, it's happened to both of us where like I've made a decision that has definitely, I don't want to say like hurt the business, but it wasn't like super beneficial. And then it's like, okay, yeah, I was the one that pushed for this a little bit more, but at the end of the day, we both agreed on it. I know going forward, I will not do X, Y, and Z. So kind of like listening to each other and understanding at the end of the day, we both have what's best for the brand, what's best for our livelihood at the center of our mind. So we just need to figure out like what levers to pull to make that happen. So yeah, I can definitely think of one where it was like, Aaron had a vision for this moto jacket that came out in spring, the crazy knitted one.
It's so sick.
Thank you.
So sick. When I first saw it, I was like,
So sick, she says.
So sick, I said, "Wow." When I first saw it, I was like, I get it. This is so cool. But I'm looking at the data portion. I'm like, okay, well, we've had jackets in the past. And like, let me look at what those jackets, like how many units we sold. And let me look at like different colorways that we've sold. And like, I was very analytical about it. And I was like, because of that, I think we should order X units. And Aaron's like, that's not enough. That's way too little. Like, I think you're lowballing it. So I upped it a little bit. And then he was like, okay, fine. I still think you're lowballing it, but like, let's see what happens. And then as I got closer, as it started to go more and more viral, we doubled that number. We put in another order with the manufacturer, and even that number wasn't enough. We sold out in like
It's like 45 seconds.
Yeah, under a minute, it was gone. So I was like, okay, I was definitely wrong in that scenario. I will own that. I will have to trust his gut going forward. If he's like, no, this is a piece we need to invest in, I will for sure do that going forward. But at the end of the day, we both got to a number that we thought was comfortable. So like, it wasn't on either of us.
I mean, to her, and respectfully for Sarah, she saw the flat sketch. So, and when I showed it to her, she saw, like a CAD image of loading it. And I was explaining like, oh, like this panel will be like ottoman, this panel will be like this and that. And she was just like, this is crazy, dude. We should not be ordering this. I was like, no, trust me, it's gonna be crazy. And then so I ended up going really well.
Sure enough, it was in fact crazy.
It did in fact go crazy.
In the chat right now, somebody please run back another order of the Moto jackets. Shout out Big Skosh. I'm curious, you're all right. We're talking 10-year anniversary before 30 here. Looking back on the decade, what's been the most difficult part about building a brand?
I would say from my perspective, starting a brand from absolute zero, $0, zero influence, zero connections, zero knowledge on how to make a garment. Starting it from absolute zero and creating the momentum. I feel like the momentum is the biggest thing. Like I like Brigade to feel like the momentum is always growing, even if like the collection isn't necessarily bigger or I don't know, like more innovative. Something about it still feels like it's like, momentum is building. And I think about all the time how to keep that as the through point, like forever. Like, how can I keep that going forever? Even if we like take over the world, how can it feel like it's still the momentum is still building? So I think, that was the hardest part, was getting it. And it took more or less 8 years to go from my childhood bedroom making t-shirts and having a box in there and shipping them in USPS priority mail packages to getting into concepts. Shout out to Lou, and shout out to Lou and Evan. Evan's the homie from Concepts and Extra Butter. Getting into the store and then going from there, having this like more crazy momentum.
Getting a studio, getting a warehouse to fulfill the orders, like getting all of that. So
brick by brick, baby. It really was.
Beautifully. But I would definitely say for me, it's like when Aaron designs something that's so technically beautiful and the quality is like so amazing, and then it just like doesn't resonate with the customers, or maybe there's not enough eyes on those specific pieces, where it's just like, oh, like I wish everyone could see this. I wish everyone could see how cool this is, because then they would like get it and they would understand and it would be amazing. So I feel like the first one is the Zion jacket that was made for the spring collection. It's
that took about a year to make, but that's a wax and weighting jacket based on like the SSTs from the 90s and stuff. And it's the first thing I've ever been able to produce with like tape seams. It's got, it's like fully waterproof, even though it's not made out of any plastics or anything. It's beeswax. And like my homie Gripsky, shout out to Gripsky. He's you got to look him up on Instagram, but he's like a tried and true like Stone Island head CP company. And he came to the studio. His archive is crazy, but he came to the studio and tried it on. And I had originally reached out to him like asking about weighting jackets because I knew he had the crazy knowledge about them when I first started designing it. And when he tried it on, he was like, dude, this is like one of the best modern wading jackets I've ever seen. And he's just like, I don't understand.
He was ahead.
Yeah, like he was just like, I ended up giving him one because I was like, that's crazy praise. But it's like stuff like that. Like to me, that piece was so important at the time. It still is important to me. And I'm very proud of it. But then like the moto jacket, like the flashy piece is what outshines those things.
Yeah.
So it's like you want to make tried and true legacy building, like clothing that can be worn. It's timeless. Like the Zion jacket is timeless. You can wear it until the end of time.
Yeah.
But the flashy stuff is what gets people's attention and sells, relatively better.
Yeah. So definitely those pieces where it's like if when people see it, they love it, they buy it, but it's just like not getting that recognition because it's not the MotoKnit.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. Kind of on the similar line of product, I'm curious, what's a piece that you've maybe dreamed up in your head, designed, but maybe haven't pulled the trigger on yet? What's something you've been, you've really wanted to make but haven't made yet?
We are pulling the trigger.
After many years of him talking about this, and it has to have been like what, 6 years?
I don't know, but I actually wanted to do this for our wedding, but we're making a suit, like a full-on, and that's going to be for our winter collection.
Wow.
I don't know why this like I don't know if anybody's ever read The Alchemist, but when homies like has this like dying need to go to the pyramids, like I've just always wanted to make a suit, and I'm gonna save the details, but
yes,
it's all about the fit. And I've been researching for like months now, I guess, just about what it is to make a suit. We made our first prototype. It came in about 3 weeks ago, and I'm like, wow, making a suit is way harder than I thought it was gonna be.
Seriously, dude, that's a lot. That's really exciting, though. I'm so excited to see what you've cooked up.
It's I really have to nail the fit. That's the problem, and like a suit fit is so hard. It's like the line. You can make a pair of cargo pants or like a shirt or like a jacket, and the wiggle room to make like a baggy fit versus like a tight fit is so large. But with a suit, it's like one little measurement is off, and it's like it looks cooked. Like it looks like you thrifted it, or it's like your dad's suit, but like you thrifted a bad suit. So.
Because with suiting, I mean, you have to pick like what kind of suit is this, and then what that kind of suit is has a line of good and bad, and you have to toe that line and and be on the good side of that. It's the styling. What's the word I'm looking for? Just the way you style it is less than a pair of cargo pants.
Yeah, and it's also like. With suiting, there's it's hard, right? It's like a double-edged sword. It's like there's so many rules in a sense, like of what is the right way to do a suit and what is the wrong way. And obviously, like you can say, well, there are no rules. You can do whatever you want. And it's like, yeah, but then also like the kind of person that wants to buy a suit is going to be like, this is trash, You don't have, especially like a streetwear ecosystem or whatever. You don't really have as much leeway to make it flashy,
Sure.
So it's like all these little details and nuances that you need to think about that separate it from the rest. So that's been a journey, to say the least.
Yeah. How do you make a suit that will appeal to to somebody who's into streetwear while also not ending up on all of the male fashion advice Instagrams and TikToks?
I mean, the thing is like. In everything in my life, I want it to be authentic.
Yeah.
And I told my homie Bo this. He's a writer from out here, but it's like I never want to do anything. Brigade's never going to do anything that I wouldn't do. Like if we have to go hang up We Paste posters, I'm out there hanging them up. Or like if we have to like vandalize something, we should vandalize it.
Oh yeah, dude.
But yeah, so like with the suit, being authentic is what's more important to me than like breaking the boundaries of like whatever. It's like, oh, how do I make something super timeless and tasteful but have like my lens on it? And like my homie Radamiz is a rapper from Brooklyn. He's the man. Also look him up. He actually, I told him on this couch months ago, like I was like, yeah, I'm thinking about like making a suit, and he was like, without hesitation was like, do that. Like, you need to do that. And I was like, huh. And he's like, just put your lens on it and all the things I just said. And that really I was like, you know what? We could do this.
Yeah. Wow. What a story. I'm kind of sidebarring here. I'm obsessed with your guys' story just because it's like, there's parallels within my own journey, just in being married young, and growing up, together in many senses. I love what you guys are doing, and just the fact that, things so near and dear to my heart, community and authenticity, innovation is cool, but authentic is the top shelf. I mean, those are just principles so core to my heart. This is just such a treat to have this interview. My kind of last two part A, part B questions, and then I want to get into some viewer questions real quick. But what's the best piece of advice? It's for two things. What's your best piece of advice for an aspiring brand creator, just starting out? And what's your best advice for maybe a new couple who are looking at making it the long haul?
Do you want to go first?
Sure. I think for an aspiring brand creator, I would say if you can, work for another company that you admire for a few years before starting your brand. Just from my perspective, I found it insanely helpful to be mentored at Bloomingdale's and Saks, learning the ropes, seeing how different people view business. During those 8 years, I must have been on at least 6 different teams, and everyone looks at something a little bit different or has a different perspective on something. And from all of that knowledge and seeing how people work and learning the business, it was really helpful to then come here and then put my lens on it and like how I would look at the business from everything I now know. So I think that would be my piece of advice there. And then for a couple, my dad actually gave us amazing advice. Was it at our wedding or
it might was before our wedding? I think it was
right
private.
Yeah, right before our wedding. He said, if you're always focused on making your partner happy and focused on your partner's happiness, you'll live a long and happy marriage. So I feel like that's really beautiful. And like, if I'm focused on him, he's focused on me, we'll be able to stand the test of time.
Yeah,
it's good,
sir. And I guess for brand creator advice, it's kind of cliche, but it's just like to keep on going. I mean, there's real. Ira Glass has this like monologue he goes on about when you first start out, all you have is your taste, and hopefully you have good taste. And it's like, you're 19, 18, whatever, and you like certain things, but you don't know why you like them or how to make them. And the only way to get to that level is to just make stuff. And he says like 90% of people die in that first part because a lot of people think when you make something, you need to be like God-given talent. It just comes to you naturally. But in reality, a lot of the time and most of the time, it's continuing to produce something until you eventually learn how to make the things you like or things that are like on the same level of as what you like. So I think, keep going is like the biggest advice I can give for brand creator. And then for relationship advice, I like to resort back to my string theory, relationship string theory, but it's basically, I like to think metaphorically. It helps me process reality. But essentially, like if I'm a string and Sarah's a string, like strings are pretty versatile objects that can do like a lot of things. But once two strings intertwine, they become a rope, and a rope is basically just a really strong string. So it's like if you figure out how you can intertwine with your partner to like do something, you become a rope.
Yeah, that's bars, bro. I like that. That was good. I'm stealing that. Okay, cool. Well, with our last few minutes here, we've got some viewer questions I want to get in. I'm going to start with one I saw in the chat. The context of who inspired the question is probably obvious, but obviously we want to hear from both of you. What's your favorite Supreme piece of all time from Dual IPA?
That is a question. Damn, I don't even know. I don't know if you would have one. No. Sarah doesn't care. There's a lot of good ones. I don't know. That's super tough. I feel like
top 3.
Honestly, I'm gonna have to go category. I'm gonna just say that Jack is pretty top tier. They're really good at making cool jackets.
Yeah.
If you give me like an hour to think
yeah.
about this, I can give you a specific answer. But for right now, you're getting jackets.
I'm getting hey, I'll take that for sure. Let's see here. Boyle wanted to know. He said the Kryptonite lock collab was very cool, as are the jerseys. Do you have any more cycling gear planned or a dream collab in this space?
Hell yeah. I mean, I'm a cyclist, so we're going to continue to lean into the cycling theme. Even if it's in like very small, nuanced ways, like there's a sample jacket back here has cycling pockets on the back that like the style jacket that it is, it would never ever have that. Like no other brand would do that. So it's just like little nuances like that. But I would love to do a bike one day. Either a track bike or a road bike. But a track bike would be sick.
Who would you want to make a track bike or a road bike with?
I don't even know, dude. I mean, a track bike, it'd be kind of crazy to do like a Cannondale, but make them like make it in the US somehow.
Yeah.
Just like the way that you approach like a fashion collab and you're like, let's dip into your archives and figure this out. Like I would do that with like Cannondale or something. Because it all used to be made in the US. I think in Connecticut actually. But
okay.
Yeah, it's pretty sick. The Cannondale track from the 90s is like a holy grail bike for track bike enthusiasts. So I'd love to like do something like that.
Sarah, do you have a dream collaboration for Brigade?
Dream collab. I don't think so, honestly.
Yeah.
Wow. Sneakers. We want to do sneakers.
Yeah, that's true. It's a lot. Doing a sneaker collab, I think, would be sick. Getting into footwear. So we have like a few brands that we're thinking about, like testing the waters, reaching out. And next would be sick.
I want to do sneakers in 2025. I'm manifesting it in this interview.
I like it. Francois asked, I saw on the blog there used to be a Brigade Book Society. Are there any books either of you have read recently that you would recommend?
Right now I'm reading The Image. It's from the 70s, I want to say. I think it's the 50th anniversary of it in the last 5 years. It's about American pseudo events. It's a very heady book, but if that interests you, those words I just said, you should check it out because it's pretty interesting. Besides that, I read what is it called? Filter World by Kyle Chayka or something. That one came out this year, and that's really interesting. It's about how the algorithm is like flattening culture overall.
Whoa, trippy! Great book
really
for today's time.
Oh yeah, it made me think about a lot of stuff from a new perspective on like how the internet affects my taste and what I'm into. You know.
Yeah, I feel like Aaron probably has the better recommendations. I tend to, when I read, go for like the more like murder mystery books, etc. So pertaining to this topic, I think Aaron's recs were amazing.
Like it. CDS wants to know how Theo's doing today.
We didn't bring him to the office. He kind of hates it here.
He is a dog of leisure. He knows that he's not supposed to be in an office. He's supposed to be in an apartment. So yeah, we have him at the apartment now, but he's amazing. He's just as cute as ever.
He's a baby angel.
Literally.
He ruined my bike ride this morning. I was supposed to go on a bike ride with one of my best friends, Nick, today. I woke up at 7, and then Theo came and cuddled and slept on my chest, and I was like, you know what? Dad duty calls. We're going back to sleep.
You got to do it sometimes. This question came in not from Discord, but from an Instagram story reply from Discord user Kevin Finnerty. He wanted to flex on me that he's been copying Brigade since 2018 and to ask you about the party that you threw at the gallery.
Oh my God. Honestly, mad disrespectful.
He knows too much. So basically, one of our first.
It was
our first New York City pop-up. We had it at a gallery in Chelsea, and Aaron was on his Truman Show.
I was very cracked out back then.
Yeah. And so he was like making this whole gallery. We like built a set of stairs to.
We did the Truman Show staircase before Louis Vuitton. Respectfully, Virgil did it way better, but we did it like 2 years before them.
Yeah. So we were basically like people are gonna come in, they're gonna see this amazing gallery with like all this thought we've put into it. They're gonna look at the collection, whatever. It turned into the biggest rager I have ever seen in my life. It was like January. It was
It was
probably
11 degrees.
yeah,
So,
yeah, 11 degrees. People were freezing, but even until close, we were like, no, seriously, we're closed. You guys gotta leave. It was like down the avenue, turn. It was like I don't know what
basically,
happened, but it turned into an insane.
For context, the idea was like the same best friend Nick that I just mentioned, who I was supposed to go on a bike ride with. He's a photographer, an amazing photographer. We had him do like a little wall of photos. We had another brand there, Homesick, doing like their own pop up because it was a multi-floor gallery, so it was like this whole event thing that we like spent 6 months on with my friend Oren, who's a musician. So Oren was going to perform music. Brigade was going to have like a whole store downstairs debuting our collection. We'd have a collaborative art piece with my homie Angelo Estrada, where we did like the Truman Show staircase, and then he made a 9-foot sculpture out of like garbage cans. So it was like this whole, it was like crazy, and the whole thing was like, it was supposed to be like this mature, like we had free beer and free fried chicken, which is not really, it doesn't really go with.
Yeah, whatever. Dude.
But the idea was like, I told the DJ, I was like, yo, play like A Tribe Called Quest, like play like, calm stuff so people can walk in and see the art, come downstairs, see the collection. 5 minutes so before doors even opened, we had a long line of people because we did RSVP that was free. And it was like, if you RSVP for free, you're guaranteed access. But we did a terrible logistical job of guaranteeing that access. So all the people that didn't RSVP, they lined up so they could get in. So all the people that didn't RSVP got in, and all the people that RSVP get in. And basically, within 5 minutes of opening, the lights are off. Mo Bamba's playing, and like
it was
my boy said he came like an hour into it, and he thought he knew what the vision was. Like he knew it was going to be like this like mature art gallery experience. And he said when he walked in, there was a kid on top of the Truman Show staircase, Stone Cold Steve Austin, 2 beers in 2 girls' mouths. And he was like, what is happening in here?
And that was the vibe. Like I was in the basement working the POS and I literally could not get out of the basement. It was so shoulder to shoulder packed on both floors.
People were sparking blunts.
Yeah, it was a hazard. And we
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, we got sued for $60,000 for what it turned into.
We didn't have a pop-up for like 3 years because I had PTSD after that.
Wow.
Shout out to Kevin Finnerty.
Yeah.
Thanks for the trauma dump, Kevin. I'll be sure to hit him up after that. Thanks, dog, for that freaking banger question. Let's see here. I'm trying to find something that's not like so many of these questions want to pit you two against each other.
Let's get it.
Okay, cool. We'll end on this one. Is there something in fashion, like trends or an aesthetic of present or past, that you guys just absolutely is there something one of you guys just absolutely loves that the other can't stand?
Huh. I never thought about that. Really?
I feel like there's a lot where like Aaron will be like, you should wear these shoes. They're so sick. They're like the thing. And I'm just like, that is so not me. And I feel like Aaron is always like 6 months to a year like before the fashion trend. And just I think because of my line of work and maybe who I am, I'm just always like, I will follow the trends. So she's always trying to put me on to.
She's a real buyer at heart.
Yeah.
He's forecasting for you and you're just not and you're not there. A year later, you're like, damn, he was right.
Exactly. Like he brought up he wanted to like there's a jacket coming out next month and he wanted to line it with like this cool cheetah print. And I was like, cheetah print, that's so like
it's a full leather jacket. We can say that. It's a full leather jacket and I wanted to do cheetah lining and I was like, yo, it's gonna be
tough. Dude.
And Sarah was like, throw up.
I was like, what is it? Like the 2012s, like 2013 era? I was like, I hate that.
And then guess what? Supreme debuted the same exact jacket with cheetah print line for their new collection.
And then
So
luckily we didn't do it, but also at the same time I'm like, oh, now like cheetah print's pretty in. My friend Nicole,
she's like trying to buy cheetah print. I'm like,
my friend Nicole got cheetah print jeans. I'm like, now I want to buy cheetah print jeans, and Aaron just hates me for it.
I'll never forget the leopard print work in progress Detroit jacket or chore coat that they did in like 2018, 2019. No, 2020. and somebody on Discord talked me out of buying it because of the price. Convinced me this isn't worth your investment, and then bought it for himself.
Oh my god, that's disrespectful.
In the long term, work in progress is for skinny people, and it wouldn't have worked out. So I'm glad I didn't spend the $500 on the $200 jacket. But we digress.
I never liked the fit of the jeans. They're too tight.
Too tight. They're made for skinny British people, and I am not skinny or British.
Supersize me.
Oh, it's the story of my life, baby. All of that being said, Aaron and Sarah, it's been an absolute pleasure. Seriously, one of my favorite interviews of the year. Before we let you guys go, where can people follow you guys? How can they support you moving forward?
So the brand is Brigade USA on Instagram. Twitter, it's Brigade_USA. We don't really use Twitter though. We're an Instagram brand, I guess. Website's brigadeus.com. And then my personal is Enduring the Waves, same as my Discord name. It's a Phil Elverum lyric. Shout out to any of my sad boys out there, the microphones.
Hell yeah.
And yeah.
And mine is Sarah Maldonado, which is Maldonado combined with Gaudio, which was my maiden name.
Yeah, this was really awesome, dude. I really appreciate you asking us to do this.
Of course. A long time coming. Glad we got it. Open invite. Come back whenever. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Hope you have a great rest of your
I saw
Friday.
a little bit of the chat happening, but I was trying not to let it sway my...
The chat has been going off. It's a fun scroll through post. This will remain up. Somebody posted a picture, I think, from the gallery party.
Oh my god!
So go look at that, and we'll see you guys next time. Have a great day, everybody.
Peace.
See you guys.